Madam Speaker, let me first respond to a few remarks that have been made by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. One of them, he complained, why is it that there has been no cause causée on this bill? And when I have listened to him today, not only on this bill, I must say we disagree on quite a number of things. But more so, with regard to this bill, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, I have been following what he's been saying publicly in a number of press conferences or elsewhere. And again, listening to him today has confirmed your stand. If I can understand you correctly, the root, apart you talk about meritocracy, institutions and so on, but the other root of the problem for you is the delimitation of the electoral boundaries. And you've come very hard against the Electoral Boundaries Commission. So where's the room for us to talk? I'm ready to talk. I said we are ready, we are open to any discussion. But again, the difference is so fundamental that I don't think that it would be meaningful even to start any discussion. Sometimes when, foreigners look at us here, they are also amazed because today we are in alliance with the Mouvement Libérateur. We have been, as far as the MSM is concerned, with the MMM, with the Labour Party, with the PMSD. I mean, who has not been with each other here in this very house? And discussing, and one of these issues has been, obviously, electoral reform. We have disagreements, yes, we have had. But we can't go on like this. We can't be, and that is why I'm going to respond to what has been suggested both by the MMM and the Mouvement Patriotique also. We refer the matter to a select committee, Madam Speaker. It's as if we are saying, let's continue to go round and round and round and round. I can say that, chapeau to Dr. Ramasitanen. He has been working so much on this that he made a thesis out of it and he became doctor in this field also. And I think the way we are going here, I'm not claiming for myself, I'm far from going to become a doctor, but some of us here will become doctors in electoral reform. We are going to make specialists of electoral reform in this country. This is what we are going to produce. So we have and that is why we came. We came with this bill. I am sad also. You are sad also. I am sad also that we are in such a situation. But we can't. No, never. But we have to do something concrete. We can't just keep on talking, discussing, trying to agree. I think this is the time that we have to each one assume our responsibility. Leader of the opposition is saying that, well, you put it in your manifesto. Yes. Let me remind him what we put also. You should, for fairness, you should mention everything that we put in our manifesto. When we say in the program, we said in our program, we said our electoral system will be reformed to introduce a dose of proportional representation in the National Assembly and guarantee better women representation. And anti-defection legislation will be introduced to make it more difficult for MNAs to cross the floor. A Financing of Political Parties Act will be enacted. Now, I agree. In our manifesto, we said the BLS will not be abolished. But, Madam Speaker, when we are faced with a situation where, on the one hand, the United Nations Human Rights Committee has made a pronouncement which says what it says. There's no need for me to go into the detail of it. And one of the fundamental issue where I think we all agree when we read the pronouncement is that we can't keep on with a mechanism of nominating best losers on the basis of the 1972, I believe, census. This is outdated, and government therefore has to take a stand. The pronouncement doesn't tell us what we have to do, but there is this observation. And we here, on this side, and the MMM also is of, and I heard also the Mouvement Patriotique, that we do not agree, and I heard also the leader of the Labour Party, Dr. Navin Rambulam, also mentioned that we do not agree for a census. Therefore, what do we do? And then we also have the case of Résistance et Alternative before the Supreme Court of Mauritius, where they're contesting the fact that they should be allowed, whenever they want to stand as a candidate, not to be obliged to declare their community. What do we do? Because I say I have put it in my manifesto and I will come to the court, or I will go to the United Nations Human Rights Commission and say, look, I have put it in my manifesto. Therefore I stay put, I don't do anything. We have to act responsibly. And we have to act. Now, on this side of the House, we have given a fitting rebuttal to a number of their arguments. Nevertheless, I would like, on my part, to take a few arguments which have come from the other side. Let me again take the suggestion that was made by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition and other members of the PMSD to reinstate the communal census. Again, Madam Speaker, I will say emphatically no. I will say in the most unequivocal terms that I shall never support the inclusion of a question on ethnic categories in a census for electoral purposes. We are talking about two different things when you mention about the census that was carried out. I consider it to be retrograde, and it will be detrimental to nation building. A census that asks Mauritians to classify themselves by community and ethnicity is improper. It is, in fact, contrary to our values. Madam Speaker, on the issue of the review of the electoral boundaries, which was raised continuously, systematically has been raised in this House and outside by the Leader of the Opposition and members of his party. The House will appreciate that under the Constitution, it is the Electoral Boundaries Commission which bears the responsibility to carry out this review. And this task is not within the province of the executive. And as this House is aware, the Commission has already embarked on the review of electoral boundaries for its next report, which is due in 2019. The last report of the Commission was submitted in 2009, but was set aside by the then Prime Minister. In fact, the report was never presented to the National Assembly for reasons, in fact, which are best known to the Labour and the PMSD government at that time. And I heard something which is really, I would say, enfantin, coming from the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. He said, I was not Prime Minister. Navin Ramgoolam was Prime Minister. He was Deputy Prime Minister. You were not, but you were a senior minister in government. Yes. But when you were a senior minister in government, Madam Speaker, and you are thinking for such a long time about the problem of constituency delimitation, about boundaries, about the number of people, electors in one constituency and the other. And when this happens, the Prime Minister then, in your government, doesn't do anything, keep on sitting. I wouldn't say something else. But you don't even say anything. You don't say, look, this is something which is fundamental to the PMSD. We want something to be done. And not only about the report, forget about the report, but so many years you've been in previous governments. But what have you been saying? What have you done? It is now that you are wiser. Therefore, let me say that I would express my disappointment and resentment. And I must say that they are unwarranted criticisms made publicly against the members of the Electoral Boundaries Commission. The members of the Commission, to me, they have been doing their job with the highest degree of professionalism and integrity, which has been acknowledged, in fact, both nationally and internationally. I am not an expert in history, but I have tried to gather information, tried to understand why is it that our boundaries have been like that. I mean, Honorable Béranger has spoken about it, Honorable Ganu has spoken on this issue. I don't need to allude further. There is a context. There is a reason why it has been designed in such a way. And therefore we must be very careful. And that is why I completely disagree with the remarks that you made, which I consider really deplorable against such an institution. Madam Speaker, let me also remind the House, and in particular the younger members of the PMSD, of what Sir Gaëtan Duval, then leader of the PMSD, said in this House in 1982 on the best loser system. And I quote, « Je ne crois pas qu'il faille aller à un référendum, etc., pour abolir le best loser system. Je crois qu'il est nécessaire, une fois pour toutes, d'en finir avec et de le remplacer par une sorte de représentation proportionnelle. Je crois que peut-être cette clause constitutionnelle peut perpétuer le communalisme dans nos institutions. Et j'avais dit à cette époque que tôt ou tard, this is important, Madame Speaker, tôt ou tard, il faudrait nous défaire de cette clause constitutionnelle. Je demande au gouvernement qu'il n'ait pas de scrupule, aucun scrupule, à venir abolir le best loser system. Et maintenant, il semble que la majorité, que l'unanimité même de l'Assemblée se fasse autour de l'Assemblée de l'abolition du best loser system, mais en le remplaçant par une sorte de représentation proportionnelle. Unquote. Madam Speaker, as hinted by a few members, apart from the best loser system, our electoral system already contains several special features to guarantee the political representation of all main segments of the population. It is important to note that experts agree that the best loser system has a very limited contribution in ensuring inclusiveness. And as a matter of fact, over the 10 general elections held between 1967 and 2010, 82% of the MNAs of one particular ethnic group entered parliament through the normal first past the post. For another ethnic group, the figure is 78%. And for a third community, the number is a remarkable 100%. I don't need to mention which community group. Besides, in the model we are proposing, party leaders will most certainly provide for broad-based and inclusive representation in their party list and in the designation of additional seats. And obviously it stands to reason that leaders, while submitting their PR list, will field candidates who are likely to correct any apprehended underrepresentation. And let me speak for my part. Should this bill be enacted, Madam Speaker, I say I undertake, I give a commitment as leader of this alliance to put on our PR list, and in order of priority, communities which are normally likely to be underrepresented after the first past the post result. And I take another commitment that in the discretion to use to allocate additional seats to correct any further imbalance should it be necessary. And here I would say our system, what we have proposed, is in fact more, how do I describe it, is more flexible than what has been proposed by the Labour MMM alliance. I'm not talking about the mode of PR representation. That is another debate. We agree to disagree, yes. But when Honorable Béranger said that our proposal was for a list to be submitted to the Electoral Supervisory Commission of 6 members at latest on nomination day, our system, you can choose from those unwritten candidates on the first past the post election and those who are on the PR list who have not been written as PR candidate. Therefore, the choice is wider, and the possibility of making any correction in terms of, I won't say only communal imbalance in terms of our constitution. I would even go further in terms of ethnic imbalance also that can arise. And I don't want to go into the details of it. I think we are all so much accustomed with this situation. Let me quote Honorable Béranger, what he said in the 2014 debate here. I quote, and this is very important. It was quoted by Honorable Rupan, but it's good that I repeat again. It took us a long time, and as I said, it is not ideal. What we have worked out finally is that the 8 best losers will be replaced by a system where the parties submit on nomination day a list of candidates in alphabetical order, and the leaders of the parties registered with the Electoral Commission will appoint from this list using their wisdom, their knowledge of Mauritius, the results of the elections, and this is a guarantee because we can't take it for granted that all political leaders are fools. No, there are people who genuinely care for national unity, for the progress of this country, and this mechanism a rassuré tous ceux qui étaient inquiets qu'on peut dépasser le best loser system, tout en rassurant ceux qui étaient inquiets. Mr. Speaker, sir, a big breakthrough. That was a big breakthrough. And I am proud, that this is marvelous, I would say. And I am proud that it was my doing. And then the Honorable Prime Minister came along and we have all moved together, Mr. Speaker, sir. Unquote. Yes. Congratulations. But I say I cannot agree more with you, Honorable Béranger, on this. In fact, as I said, in fact, the formula that we are proposing, with regard to this aspect, I'm saying, because I don't want to be demagogical, with regard to this aspect, will do better in ensuring a fair and adequate representation of all the different components of our society. Given again the flexibility that the leaders will now have. Now, I can't resist, Madam Speaker, I have to say this. Honorable Béranger and Dr. Navin Ramgoolam, they were in alliance, they agreed, and I think they came up with this in the political agreement for the alliance. And obviously, included was this issue of the discretion given to the leaders, the leader, let's say, of the alliance to choose from that list. Now, Dr. Navin Ramgoolam, in the meantime, at a political rally in Katobon, he comes and says, well, I never agreed to that. But, Madam Speaker, this is where people lose faith in politicians. When we have agreed to some, as I say, well, at that time he might have agreed for political interests, let's say. But at least come forward and say, look, well, this is what I agreed previously, but now I've changed my mind and I do not agree to give that power, that discretion to the leader to choose. And then he keeps on saying, oh, I don't want to go into what he has mentioned again. Honorable Mohammed said that it took us 4 years to come up with our electoral reform proposals, and that was the same was couched in a few pages. Well, let me remind him, although he didn't come with a reform as such, but the Labour Party MMM electoral reform proposals were laid down on a single page, not even, and they had the, I would say, the most brilliant, the most competent experts on electoral reform. They came up, Madam Speaker, look at that. This is what they came up with, electoral reform. And again, if I have to go through that, although it doesn't say, it is practically what we are proposing today, except I agree when Honorable Balamudi and Rezautim made the point that the mode of nominating the PR candidates, well, here we have a difference in the way that they should be nominated. Madam Speaker, in regard to adequate representation, again, Honorable Balamudi said that where is it written that in the bill that each and every component of our rainbow nation will be guaranteed to be represented in this assembly? I don't know. I would have expected Honorable Balamudi to come up and tell us how it would have been guaranteed, again, in this proposal, the same way that Honorable Béranger spoke about, the rainbow nation will be adequately represented in the assembly. I think this is not, I would say this is not fair, because Honorable Béranger has given you the answer. He said, look, leaders, what we have been doing all this time, all the leaders, in fact, all the leaders of the main parties, when we choose candidates, how do we choose candidates? We know we are guided by a certain reality of the constituency, and also on the rainbow nation, we see to it that we have every representation in our party. This is how we fill candidates. This is how, when also we nominate, you're talking about, I won't go into that debate. I find this very unhealthy, to go into the debate of, the percentage of such community and why is it that in cabinet. Again, you've discovered that only today. You have been in so many cabinets. I don't know why is it that you have never come out publicly to say, well, why is it that I am in a cabinet? As long as you are in a cabinet, it was okay, it was good. When you are not in the cabinet, then percentage-wise, this and that, you should, I tell you, look, I'm not perfect, but you have to be fair, So it should not be, Honorable Balamudi, I was replying to you, It should not be that because you have made the point, yes, you have criticized, but the answer, the Honorable Leader of the Honorable Béranger has given you that answer. And this is what we do. This is what we have to assume our responsibility. I have said earlier, it is obvious, Madam Speaker, as far as I'm concerned, and as Honorable Béranger has said, said it, and now he will also look into it. Whenever let's say, if this bill is enacted, I'm sure on the PR list, what are we going to put topmost priority? Who are we going to put? We know we have a list of all the best losers who have been nominated for the past years. How many of them? From which community? And this is what we will do. And again, I emphasize on the advantage of our system, our proposal, is that when we are going to choose from the additional seats, the discretion that is given to a leader of the alliance or the party, obviously he will use it in the same way in order to compensate for underrepresentation. At least I know MMM, they have always claimed to be a party avant-gardiste, fighting against communalism, trying to remove all these communal barriers and so on. Fair enough. Can you imagine, we voted this bill for the 2014 election, temporary provisions. We are, and the Honorable Béranger was so proud that he came along with that idea, removing Charles and putting May, so that a candidate for the general election is not obliged, if he so chooses, not to declare his community. That was very good. Very good. I applauded. I say, and you know, Madam Speaker, if you look at my speech, I drew a number of flaws in that bill. But yet, the MSM, we said, we are going to vote for the bill. We voted for the bill, in favor of that bill. Because, as a party, we are fighting. We want communalism to regress. And I hope there will come a day where a candidate who stands for general election does not have to declare his community. And I stood up in this house, I said, look, we vote for the bill, it is going to become act, and I am not going to declare my community when I'm going to register as a candidate. And you know what the Labour and the MMM did? They instructed all their candidates to declare their community when they stood as candidates. This is history, Madam Speaker. It's good to talk about so many things, but this is history, and therefore, you have to face what you have done also.